The week of sharp price moves on Wall Street is coming to an end. Today, the market is having a downward correction. The major stock indexes are pulling back as no more corporate reports are scheduled for today. The high-tech sector propelled a steady rally on Wall Street to one-year highs. And yesterday, the sector experienced one of the worst days that certainly made a negative impact on the benchmark indexes. The Dow Jones climbed by 163 points, or 0.47%. The Nasdaq tumbled by 294 points, or 2.05%. The S&P500 shed 30 points, or 0.68%, to close at 4,534 points. The stock indexes traded in the green in the New York pre-market. The S&P is expected to trade indicated between 4,520 and 4,580 points. The S&P and the Nasdaq fell in sync yesterday as investors reassessed their bets on a rally of high-tech stocks this year after Tesla's and Netflix reports. As a result, both companies were hit by a massive sell-off. Tesla shares plunged by 9.74%, the biggest one-day percentage drop since April 20. And the steaming giant lost 8.41%, which was the biggest single-day percentage drop for Netflix since December 15. However, the Dow was able to rise thanks to Johnson & Johnson, and the company added 6.07% after publishing results and announcing an increase in full-year earnings guidance. These results helped the Dow register its ninth consecutive session of gains, the longest since September 2017. S&P's tech, communication services and the consumer discretionary services sectors fell at least by 2% on Thursday. As for the state of the economy, data on the Thursday showed that the labor market remains tight, while the housing and manufacturing sectors continued to fall. On a Friday, futures for the US stock indexes turned into a pullback, while the Dow Jones index was set to rise for the 10th day in a row. The optimists suggest that the combination of the labor market strength and some rotation in industry stocks highlights hopes for a soft landing. Pessimists reckon that the Fed has not yet finished its monetary tightening, and any further rate hike after next week will only accelerate the economic decline in 2024. At the same time, of course, today market participants are buying up high-tech stock at bargain prices. Tesla shares rose by 1.1% in the pre-market. Nvidia added 0.8% before the opening bell. American Express is the only top company to report its quarterly results, while almost all other banks posted impressive results last week. American Express shed 2% before the bell after the credit card giant's unchanged full-year profit guidance worried investors, surpassing better than expected quarterly results. The S&P and the Dow are on a track to close the week higher, and the Nasdaq might follow suit. At the same time, it's important for investors to know that the special rebalancing of the Nasdaq index will be carried out at the end of a trading day. According to data from the beginning of the month, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon and Tesla together account for 43.8% of the weight in the index as part of the rebalancing, and this share will decrease to 38.5%. Wells Fargo Index strategists estimate that Starbucks, Booking Holdings, Analog Devices, and several other stocks will increase their share of the Nasdaq 100 index with the changes effective from Monday. The US dollar index is consolidating gains over yesterday and trading higher after a 0.1% uptick today. The index is trading at 100.99 now. The intraday Canada is seen between 150 and 101.30. On Thursday, the US currency enjoyed a stunning rally. It had the strongest intraday performance and perhaps weekly performance in more than 2 months. After the first really nervous day in financial markets in weeks, Friday's recovery suggested that the pullback in stocks and bonds and the steady dollar rally was more of an exception than a rethink. Currently, traders are sitting on the sidelines of the Fed's policy meeting that will take place next week, which could end up in the last rate hike of the cycle. Goldman Sachs, in a note to clients, also added fuel to the fire that it expects Powell to be careful to avoid hinting that the policymakers have already made the decision, but that the rate-setting committee will eventually miss the September rate hike. The Canadian dollar traded mixed today. The earlier strength of the loonie was offset by fresh macroeconomic data, so the USD CAD pair went up, having grown by 0.22%. It's now trading at 1.3200 within the intraday Canada between 1.3180 and 1.3240. The loonie showed resilience, but fresh evidence of disinflation on a Friday cemented expectations for a pause in the Bank of Canada's policy. According to flash estimates, retail sales in Canada rose by 0.2% in May, below the first estimate of a 0.5% increase and below the revised reading for April at 1%. In annual terms, retail sales expanded by 0.5%, the slowest growth since the collapse in the second quarter of 2020. As for oil quotes prices again in ground today, Brent crude futures appreciated by 0.8% to $80.32 per barrel. The crypto market is trading mixed without a change in the market sentiment, and today Bitcoin is following the same dynamic as the high-tech stocks. The token is trading at 29,800, 0.4% up. Popular altcoin are trading mixed. Ethereum, Solana, Ripple, Cardano, Binance, and Litecoin are wavering between 1.5% drops and 0.3% gains. As for the news environment, the US Congress introduced a bill to regulate cryptocurrencies, which could potentially protect the industry from attacks by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The news is good, but the process is only at the initial stage and has not yet had a serious impact on the market sentiment. Besides, FTX trading on a Thursday filed a lawsuit against founder Sam Bankman-Fried and other former cryptocurrency exchange executives seeking to recover more than $1 billion that they allegedly misappropriated before FTX went bankrupt. In any case, the market reacts sluggishly to the news after the victory of Ripple. The intraday outlook for Bitcoin remains the same for now. If the asset does not receive an impulse, it can spend the day in a flat movement between the levels of 29,800 to 30,200. Going beyond these borders will lead to a retest of the levels 29,600 or 30,400, and after the levels of 29,000 or $31,000. Thank you for watching. We are closely monitor the markets and provide you with the up-to-date financial information and analysis. We are waiting for your questions and comments. Subscribe to our channel. Have a nice weekend and see you next week.